Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm John Dykes, and once again today I'm joined by Jim Simonetti to speak to the Billy McNeill Commemoration Committee members Eddie Lynas and Frank Devine. Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you.
Thanks, guy.
You guys are from the Billy McNeill Commemoration Committee. You're currently sitting where the Jimmy Johnson Charitable Trust are based. It's a coming together of two Lisbon Lions. How does it feel to be sitting in here at Cathkin Park?
Well, I'm actually amazed. As I say, I've obviously heard of the Jimmy Johnson Academy, but to come in here and see what I've met with in here is absolutely beyond belief. I'm totally taken aback with it all, but in a great way. Totally amazed. Fantastic.
What do you think yourself, Frank? Because I know you're too young to have visited Third Lanark's Park when it was up and running.
Just in the era, I think, to be honest with you. I think I was born in 1961. But I mean, I'm delighted and honoured you've invited us in as well, because honestly, this is the type of thing we want to be doing. I'm absolutely, and this is through the charity stuff, other stuff that I'm involved in as well. See, this gets to the people we want to speak to. I've always said I would rather have a good Facebook post than have a bit in the Daily Record or a piece in any of the local papers, because they don't matter anymore. Social media is how you get your message out now. You know, so I think it's really, really important. If this can come under the kind of term of social media, it's going to be posted on social media, then you get to know people are interested in the general cultural, social, sporting context, political and everything else as well, you might say. People are into the same things as us are more likely to listen to these types of social media platforms, if you like.
You're 100% right, because it's so specifically aimed at people who are interested in Celtic. So, for example, June and July, by the end of July, in the 2 months, we'll have gone out to 250,000 Celtic fans. So, as you say, you could put an advert in a tabloid newspaper and their circulation's right down, and then you don't know how many Celtic fans are actually going to read that article. So we're going out to a huge amount on a daily basis, but over the 2 months 250,000 Celtic fans will have listened to our podcast. So you're speaking directly to the Celtic fans who are subscribing, who are listening to the podcast in their car or when they're out running or walking the dog or maybe on a treadmill. But you're going out to these Celtic fans, and it's important that they're aware of what you've done, why it was done, and where we go from here.
Sure.
And it's also important, I think, Jim, when you look at the fact that we're in this historic Scottish football pitch, clubhouse, and when you look around, you're looking at the history of Willie Maley, Jimmy McGrory, Jimmy Johnson. It's something to be celebrated, and what these gentlemen are doing is creating something else, a legacy that we can celebrate for years to come.
And quite rightly so. Speaking to the guys earlier, what they felt, what they told me, what they felt, with just sitting was in the next room there was history of an era that's special, and it'll always be special, Paul. 1967 will always be special to all the Celtic fans, even the ones that's still to be born, that's still to come. And it's important to our fathers and mothers who have passed, and my grandfathers who have passed, and grandmothers who have passed, and my great grandparents. And starting away back long before the club was founded in 1888, 1967 is significant to us. But the men who made the glory are significant to a place in Scottish culture and Scottish history. It's very, very important that they should never be forgotten what they done and what was achieved. People say at times that it was great for Scotland and it was the first in the UK. No, Paul. Guys, it's great for Celtic. It was great for the Celtic heritage, what they achieved. So what the guys are achieving with Caesar, who I got to meet during Jimmy's illness, and I learnt, if you just sitting and listening to him talking to Jimmy, a few different things, and my admiration even went up even more for him. And I was very fortunate, and the kids that were here at the time were very fortunate to hold his medals, all his medals in their hands. They kids held history in their hands and we had the privilege of having Billy's medals with us. And to tell you how special that felt to me, I can't actually explain it, because it's just a feeling of brilliance. So Billy McNeill and the rest of his men behind him should all have a place in history. They should all have statues, in my opinion. Every single one of them. The whole squad, for generations to see, and for generations to be told what was achieved with these guys. So I think having the Billy McNeill representatives here is nothing short of fantastic, and it's an absolute honour that they have come in to Jimmy Johnston's home place here. I feel absolutely delighted, Paul.
It's a privilege. It's an absolute privilege. Jim's mentioned the historic day of 25th of May 1967.
Yeah.
Take us back. What's your memories?
My memories, I was brought up across the road from Billy's mum and dad's house in Belsill, and my dad, God rest him, used to run the bus from Cranty's pub at that time. Now, we were the only ones in the estate that had a TV, and my memories, obviously I was lucky enough to see it. I was 12-year-old, and my dad had a late licence, and all the pies and what have you for Cranty's pub were delivered to a friend. And when the game had finished, we had the big Celtic flag draped over the breadboard full of Tunnock's pies, running through the scheme, singing the Celtic song, delivering them down to the pub. It was amazing. Some I'll never forget.
Frank, you're a wee bit younger. You can vaguely remember the furore.
I can remember being out in the street playing football and somebody coming out, but it wasn't my mum or dad, and the same story, but that same sort of narrative, if you like, about the only street in the house having a telly. But it wasn't us, I don't think, anyway. But there was somebody at the telly, and I think they were all round about it, watching the telly, and I remember somebody coming out and shouting, Celtic's won the European Cup. But that's all I can really remember about it. But like Eddie, I'm from Moss End, which is all the Belsill ones. It was the Irish Catholic community, then Lithuanian, then some Italians arrived, but they were all based in Moss End. The chapel was in Moss End, the school was in Moss End, the chapel hall. So Moss End was the kind of main area, and all the Belsill ones would come to school in Moss End, and that's why the likes of McNeill, Big Billy, and that would come up to the same as my cousin Manty Cathy's laddies. That they all stayed in Belsill, but they all come up to Holy Family. So that's how Holy Families get. We made sure, although it was Billy McNeill Belsill, I tried to make sure it was Belsill and Moss End, because Moss End's got a real, because Moss End moulded in many ways in terms of social, cultural, religiously. People were moulded by coming up to Moss End Chapel and going to Moss End School and that. So I thought that was important to get the kind of Moss End bit in as well. But I mean, McNeill was, I said this earlier on as well, I mean, you seen these people in the street. You seen John Clark at Mass every week. Every single, you went to Moss End Chapel. You occasionally seen Big McNeill, but Big McNeill moved away and in Newt Mearns. Wee Johnson, you seen wee Jimmy. Jimmy was never at the chapel, didn't he, St Columbus when he was after drinking that. Jimmy, no, he would go and train like a maniac, and then you would see him at chapel sometimes or not. So you grew up with him. There wasn't this. A lot of people say they come out with kind of cliches or tropes like against modern football, but no. And I can look at football players today and go like, I've got nothing in common with these guys here, and that's the God's honest truth. I've got to say that in all sincerity. I've nothing in common with them. But you couldn't say that about Billy McNeill. And as well as that, Billy had a pub in Belsill called McNeill's Halfway House, halfway between Belsill and Moss End. I had 4 aunties working in there at one time. Manty Cathy, my Uncle Pat's. I mean, they were all in it. You know what I mean? And Nellie McNeill, Billy's mum, would maybe occasionally invite Manty Cathy down for Sunday dinner. So Manty Cathy fucking loved. Oh, sorry for swearing.
That's all right. You're right. Carry on.
Manty Cathy loved. See this going on. My dad's sister's gone. My mum's from Ireland. My dad's sister. So Manty Cathy would come on the phone. Oh, Boston. It was down at Mrs. McNeill's house. Everybody called her Nellie, but not to her face. They called her Mrs. McNeill. So Manty Cathy would go off on one about how she was invited down to Mrs. McNeill's house. for their Sunday dinner and that. So they really were part of the community, despite the fact that they became very, very famous and that. There wasn't the same, you look at football players now, and I mean, I don't know, there's such a gulf between the supporters.
Yeah.
And, then it was like Celtic, Lisbon Lions, I mean, they were part of the community in ways that you could never get. It'll never happen again, And other stuff I know, I mean, they were the first British club to win the European Cup, but you're minimising what Celtic done there. They were the first non-Latin team to win the European Cup. They were the first team outside of Spain, Italy and Portugal to win the European Cup. They won the European Cup with 7 players that played with Boys Guilds.
That's right.
7 of them were Irish descent as well. No, you can deconstruct it and bring in so many things here. So many different dimensions to it that personally I don't think Scotland has really, see when you go like that, the first team in Scotland won the European Cup, you're minimising what happened there. And at the same time, I've got a couple of wee gripes about the way a lot of the players that played, a lot of the Lisbon Lions were treated like shite by Scotland. What did how many caps did Billy McNeill get?
I know.
Wee Johnston.
Yep.
I remember going to the games in the 70s and they were getting crucified. And I mean crucified by the Scotland support. All that stuff feeds into it as well. So and it's all very well said it was a great victory, as if the whole of Scotland rejoiced. The whole of Scotland didn't rejoice when Celtic won the European Cup. That's revisionism par excellence, saying that everybody was happy, because they weren't happy when Celtic won the European Cup. But it meant something of cultural, sporting and social significance to the community that found it Celtic. I think that's a big thing.
No, you're absolutely right. Although, on a sporting level, Celtic were the underdog to the likes of the Italians. But
absolutely.
In Scotland, Celtic were the underdog for different reasons.
Absolutely. And I don't think that can... Again, there's plenty of stuff being wrote about that. There's plenty of people who's going to say it's a lot of shite. But see, saying it's a lot of shite, it's a wee bit of looking politics and history as well. It's like, I talk to people at Celtic and Rangers, one side's as bad as that, fucking raging when I hear that, because I know that's factually incorrect to say that. Because you're taking... another thing going on about Rangers as well, Rangers were terrible. Rangers didn't employ Catholics up to a certain date and a certain quite recent, really. But Rangers were only doing what all the other companies done in Scotland. Now, Billy McNeill won a European Cup medal in 1967. He couldn't get a job in a bank in Scotland in 1967. He couldn't get a job in an engineering work. It was only beginning to break down in the mid-70s. Not in the 60s. It wasn't breaking down in the 60s.
Yeah.
It was breaking down maybe in the 70s. And it wasn't in 1991 where people from Billy McNeill's background were able to compete in the labour market in terms of occupational categories, wherever people worked in that. So there's a massive history there as well with the whole Celtic thing. And the good thing about Celtic is looking at Celtic it gives you the opportunity to look into wider parts or wider spheres of Scottish society that have been largely ignored or undocumented. In my humble opinion.
I think you're bang on. If my memory's correct, I think Billy got 29 caps. I think he get 29, which is still nothing. So if you look at him and Jimmy, they never even, maybe 59, 60 between them or whatever. Absolutely strong. So, exactly what you're saying there, Frank. That's why, in an opening part of the conversation, I'm saying there should be a statue for every one of these guys. Yeah. Everybody that was part of that significant part of Scottish heritage and Scottish history. And that hasn't been broken down the way that you're saying, because of it, for various reasons. Glasgow Celtic at that particular time, and the people who played for Glasgow Celtic and the supporters or the majority were on the same boat. They wouldn't got a job in the bank. They wouldn't got a job there. They wouldn't got a job there. They wouldn't got a job here, or whatever. So they men helped to break down a lot of barriers as well, which meant, but Celtic Football Club, before the men came along and made the history, broke down the barriers. They attempted to break down the barriers where they welcomed everybody everybody into the fold, regardless of colour, regardless of creed. The man here you see in the wall made sure that's what was going to happen. So you're bang on what you're saying, and that's why guys like Billy McNeill, Caesar, never to be forgotten. Never.
Jim has shared some experiences that you had with Billy McNeill, having met him, obviously during the time of Jimmy Johnston's illness. Eddie, Frank, could you share with us any occasions that you might have met the great man?
Yeah, I've met him many times indeed. My dad used to work in the same pub as Frank's talking about, Halfway House. Billy used to come to Sacred Heart Chapel every year to present Boys Guild trophies. I was in hospital, the same hospital his mum was in at the time with his dad, and he took the bother, they were in different wards, but he always came to see me to see how I was. And I used to see him, when he moved down to the Mullow Road, everybody seen him, and he would never walk by you. He was always a gentleman and a legend in more ways than one. He would pass nobody, and this is why he had so much respect on both sides of the divide in our area.
Yeah.
I've met him many a times, countless occasions, too many to remember, and every one of them was a pleasure.
I met him once at Celtic Park, and he asked me where I was from. I said, Dunfermline, and he said, I scored a goal against them once.
Aye.
Talk about understating your achievements. That was the beginning of the domination under Jockstein. What about yourself, Frank? Did you ever get the chance to meet the great man?
I met him, no really, and I have probably at different times been near him and all that, but again, was once just going down the street with my mum, walking from Moss End down to Belsall, because they did motors then, in the olden days, black and white film and that. We're going down the street and my mummy, I can't remember what happened, but he kind of waved out at my mum. I was about 7 or something. Must have been after the European Cup. I don't know when the pub must have opened in the late 60s, early 70s.
Late 60s, early
60s.
Yeah.
And he waved to her. So that was just the fact that Billy McNeill waved to her. So that was my real, if you like, main story about Billy McNeill himself, was seeing him down the street. But again, it was just part of the community. He was part of the community. His family were part of the community. I mean, it's like, what's it like, the difference between, and you know what you'll get me here, there's just, what football players are getting paid today is it's an abstraction. And I'm not saying they shouldn't get, but you need to pay well and that, but it's just, something's no right about society. When guys like that were getting 30 quid a week when they won the Europe, I don't know if it was 30 quid a week or whatever when they won the European Cup. And I know that 30 quid a week would be a lot more now, but there was a relationship or a connection between, I know you've got Kieran Tierney, right, and he's away now, but he was probably the only one coming for that type of community that were just the same as us, that stayed in the same, because we all stayed in council houses.
Yeah.
I mean, the vast majority I said this in Celtic Mind at one, the vast majority of Celtic supporters are working class or one generation removed from a working class background.
Yep.
Everybody stayed in, we all stayed in, everybody stayed in council houses. There was very few private houses anyway. There was maybe one street in every town or somewhere, about a couple of streets. So everybody was coming for that type of background, including the players. We Jimmy stayed in the View Park. Johnston stayed doing where you are, doing the Free State. I mean, it was all ordinary punters.
What you touched on earlier, feeling detached from the modern player. I think what it goes back to is these guys were working class heroes.
Absolutely.
They might have been on a wee bit more money than the working man after bonuses and stuff like that, but they wouldn't pass you in the street.
Aye,
bang on, Paul.
I mean, they get a 240 bus into training. You know what I mean? It's like just, you can imagine there's a great photo. The players either coming to or coming face Celtic Park round about 67, Barrafield. Fucking players are walking about, you know what I mean?
That's right, huh?
Just walking to training.
European Cup winners.
Yeah.
That was how close, and which doesn't there any. You would never dream of players doing that now. I could be wrong, you're right. I mean, excuse me. I mean, players going to Player of the Year. Players used to come to Player of the Year dances, not go up and sing Sean South. You're not going to get in. It's become a sanitised world.
It has. One of the best stories about that actually is because I remember coming through. My first game was 1987. I remember coming through, and wherever the supporters clubs were, who are you getting this year for the dances?
Yeah, right.
And it might not always have been a first pick. It might have been maybe Alex Matthew, but Billy McNeill made a point of having the book, and he would send players to all these dances. And we spoke to Chris Morris on one of the very early podcasts we'd done, and he claims that it was because of him that Celtic fans sing the Fields of Athenry. Hear me out.
Is that right?
So he's going to all these dances. He's never seen this before because he'd only ever played with Sheffield Wednesday, and this was all new to him. So he says to Peter Grant, listen, I'm going to these dances and they're always expecting me to sing a song, but I don't know any Celtic songs. So Peter Grant says, listen, all you need to do is start singing Hail, Hail, he says, and before you know it, the whole crowd will join in. So he'd done that for a wee while, and then he gets picked by the late great Jack Charlton to play for the Republic of Ireland, and he's rooming with Niall Quinn, and Niall Quinn's a massive Celtic fan. He's saying to Chris Morris, what's it like to play for Celtic and all this? So he tells him the same story. We go to all these supporters dances and we're expected to sing. So Niall Quinn says, well, what do you sing? He goes, well, I just sing Hail Hail. He was like, no, you can't sing that. Here's a song for you. And he gave him a tape, and it had the Fields of Athenry on it.
Is that right?
So Chris Morris's party piece was the Fields. He says, and years later, after he's been punted to Middlesbrough, he comes back up for a cup final in the time of Martin O'Neill. He says, and the fans are all singing the Fields of Athenry. I started that.
Claiming responsibility.
He's taking that
fantastic.
one. That's fair enough, but it shows you how close the players were, even in the 80s, the late 80s, to the fans.
But Paul, see on that. I mean, you're talking about, and Frank's talking about, and Eddie's talking about how close the players were to the fans, and it's quite interesting. Now, I don't know if we touched on it in a previous discussion, previous talk, but I think the last Celtic team like that was Tommy's.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in saying the last People's team, the last Celtic supporters team? Hopefully I'm putting that across the right way for everybody that's listening.
For me.
But I think Tommy's team, that was the last closeness that maybe we will ever touch ever again.
The connection.
The connection, Eddie. Aye, that special connection.
Definitely.
Well, we all had a special connection with Tommy, and maybe he instigated that connection with his players to come out to the fans. But that's what I think.
I agree with you. When you think about it, not only do we lose Tommy when he gets sacked after the game at Falkirk, in that pre-season we lose Paul McStay, we lose Peter Grant, and then that core of your Kieran Tierney style player who's for the terrace and to the pitch starts to get lost. We start bringing in a lot of guys from overseas, and obviously you can't criticise that because we've had some fantastic players like Larson, Moravcik, Nakamura, Eduard, Dembele. That's great, but you know that it's a guilty pleasure, and in 3 years the guys are going to go away.
Of course.
And I remember a great discussion I had with Pat Stanton, who's a guy who I would have loved to have seen in the flesh.
Seen him play,
class player, you know. And I've just seen the footage and I heard his contemporaries talking about him, and he says, Paul, it's still important to this day to have a few of the players in your team. He goes, because let's just say 5 minutes to the end of a game and it's 1-0 to the opposition. Does it really matter as much to the guy who knows that he's getting his next move and he's using your team as a stepping stone? And he used a few examples. He said Paul Scholes at Man United, it's so important. You know, the Barcelona players, there's the core.
It's got that in there.
There's got the heart. And I think for a club like Celtic, it's important to have Jamesy Forrest. It's important to have people like Kieran Tierney and Callum McGregor, a core of 3 or 4 guys. But interestingly enough, and I don't know if this is because we really are pushing for the 10 in a row, other than the names we've mentioned, who's the next crop? Have we got guys that could step in and become the next era of your Tierneys, your Forrests, McGregor?
In my mind, offhand, no. I think I'm quite impressed with the young boy Welsh. He's homegrown. A friend of mine, his grandson's actually playing in the reserves and all at the moment. Man United wanted to buy him and all, but he just wants to stay at Celtic. He's been Celtic through and through. He was brought up. So if he manages to make the breakthrough, it's guys like this we'll be relying on, you know. But at the moment, I can't pinpoint MD except for what you mentioned. In the first team, no, I can't.
Because you always look at Celtic right through the ages, having this conveyor belt.
Yes.
Celtic fans with Celtic at heart who give you that, maybe that wee bit extra, that few % extra.
You're right, Paul. But even I go to the Scottish Youth Scottish Cup games and as well, and through the Glasgow City Cup as well. We'll go to the games, go to the finals, and watch it. But the last player that really stood out for me, and that was actually the boy for Rangers, was Billy Gilmour.
Yeah.
And he then went to Chelsea. I look at it and I go, what ones are going to come through? Where they're going to be? And to my astonishment, they don't really get into the first teams. They've either got to go somewhere else. I don't know the answer. Who's going to be the next ones to come through for the youth? I don't know the answer to that, Paul.
I think Mikey Johnson's got a chance. He needs to watch the injuries, obviously, but I mean, when he plays, and Neil Lennon's played him.
Yes,
he's looked good.
Yeah, he's
looked good. And obviously, you've got the prodigy and Dembele coming through. A few other names, like you mentioned, Welsh. However, going for the 10 in a row, if you can get a ready-made, even a loan deal, I think Celtic will do that to make sure they get over the line.
Take whatever they want.
Aye,
I think
to get us over the line.
Get a free pass this year.
What was he get? Yeah.
We're talking about 10 in a row. Take us back to the era of 9 in a row. What are your fondest memories of watching Celtic during that period?
Hammer and Rangers.
Aye, regularly.
Regularly.
And it was a good, strong Rangers.
And it was a good, strong Rangers, yeah. Just showing the supremacy over them in every department.
You know, and that, Paul, you asked me a question the other day about the season for 9 in a row. And I'm saying something sticks in my head about that back then. I couldn't remember. Then I went and checked it. I'm sure Rangers beat us twice on that year. Am I right?
67?
No.
9 in a row.
9 in a row. 9 in a row.
Oh, sorry.
74. They beat us twice. So that must have been some psychological
Blow to them.
in Celtic's brains going, oh, they've beat us twice. We're going for this magnificent number of 9. Wouldn't it be interesting to see how they actually dealt with that? That they've been beaten twice.
Yeah.
Going, how do we get in the mindset? How do we now have our intellectual intelligence and our heart intelligence working together? Bertie Hall taught me the two things: intellectual intelligence and heart intelligence. He said that's what we had in the Lions.
Fusion.
All working together.
It was installed by Mr. Steen.
Yeah. So, wouldn't it be interesting that if you got a couple of people in to speak from the 9 in a row era players and how they dealt with that, and then get into the 10 and the supporters of a certain age, which is fantastic to talk to these guys and how they felt going through that. But I think, and I couldn't remember the 10. It didn't have any significance for whatever reason to me as an individual, but to other people it probably did. But now I'm at this age and I so much want this 10. 10, because that'll never be done again.
Well, the thing is, I think previous to that the record was 6. So after 6, 7, 8, 9, you didn't really know where it's going. You know, there's no end in sight. But now, because we set that target at 9 and obviously going for the 10, that also, you know, all bets are off with anybody else claiming that they got a 9 fairly, because obviously we're going to beat it anyway. And I always compare it to our own 9 in a row rather than anybody else's. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in that season, 74-75, Celtic were a good cup team. And famously, Billy McNeill won the Scottish Cup in his final game. At that point, as a Celtic fan, were you looking at that thinking, this is the end of an era, as it proved to be?
As it proved to be, yeah, because we all knew, you know, I was fortunate enough in my own mind to see the Lions the last game they ever played together.
So did I.
Yeah,
Clyde.
I was there.
Against
6-1.
Here's Clyde.
Against Clyde. And, you know, when I seen Billy in that game, you know, what's going to happen now? You know, these guys are, I don't say over the hill, but they've done everything they can ever do. What's going to happen? Are we going back to the bad old days, you know, when there was nothing? You know, but, you know, it was amazing to see what it is now.
One interesting thing, because speaking to people as well, a lot of the recollections aren't documented in Celtic books or on videos, and then you start talking to people and you get a lot more information. And what we found out chatting to Sean Fallon and Sean's son, Sean Jr., is that obviously after Big Jock had his car crash and Sean looked after the side for a whole year, he needed reinforcements at that point.
Yep.
And what they've since found out, and what Billy McNeill has told them since, is that had you asked me back as a player, just to settle everything down, I'd have been back. I'd have come back in a minute.
I didn't know that, Paul.
And that would have made a huge difference, wouldn't it? He would have come out of retirement. He'd been, what 74, 75. he'd have been away for several months, he would have come back, he would have signed. He would have signed and he would have helped Sean get through that season. As it happens, he comes back in 78 as a manager. And it's the manager, I remember, his second spell actually. What's your memories of Big Billy as a manager? Did you look at him and think, he's the only man that could have taken over for Jockstein?
Personally, aye. Yeah. Because it's like, you're brought up, the community thing, and I know we're here to talk about sport, but you can't isolate sport for other things. And no, sport isn't, what I'm trying to say is Disney, it's not a value-free thing, it's whatever people make it. But, excuse me, I think people at the time, it was like, McNeill was a god to us. We were only wee boys, but I remember 9 in a row and I was going to football all the time then. And McNeill was a god, so everybody felt it was like a succession, an apostolic succession, if you like, that you expected. McNeill, there was nobody else was going to take her for Jockstein, I don't think. That was probably the way the Celtic support felt at the time. But bear in mind as well the times we were in then, because you wouldn't have expected McNeill to go anywhere else, I don't think.
That's right.
It was an expectation that somebody like McNeill would be the next Mr. Celtic, if you like.
It's a gradual process, isn't it?
Aye.
From captain, the greatest captain, to become manager.
To become the manager, and that boot room mentality. People talk about Liverpool's great boot room. I think Celtic had that. Celtic had that when you look at the men that Jockstein had behind him.
Yeah.
Ex-players. Billy McNeill comes in, his right-hand man's John Clark. Although he brings down Brian Scott from Aberdeen, that's because up until then we had never had a physiotherapist, really. We had somebody with a heat lamp. That was it.
Can I say something? I mean, when Steen went, if it didn't have went for McNeill, who else would you have? It was like...
There's a newspaper report, and it names, in 78, it names Paddy Crerand and Bertie Auld.
Aye, that's what I was going to say. I think Bertie could have done it. Aye, definitely, 100%. I think Bertie Auld, if it wouldn't have been a Billy McNeill, Bertie Auld would have been the next choice. Aye. And I'd have took Bertie. No, because we know him and he's a friend, whatever. But I think Bertie Auld would have been a magnificent, fantastic Celtic manager. I really do. But we got Billy, we got Caesar, which was great, was absolutely brilliant, and he gave us so many memories. And obviously in 88 it was a special year, wasn't it?
Special year indeed.
And how fitting was it, guys, that he was the manager? And I mean, my hairs are standing up, and I know I go in, Paul, but my man, whatever, my mum loves Celtic, and she used to go to games as well. When women didn't necessarily go to games then, I'd go along with her. And but that year was brilliant, wasn't it, guys?
Oh,
it was brilliant, Paul.
That was my introduction to going to the games. So I'd obviously been born into this family of Celtic supporting adults who all went to the games home and away. Yep. But 87, 88, but even then I remember being on the buses and you would see wee badges and that on people's scarves going on about the 10 men winning the league, and obviously that was Billy's first season in charge. Yeah. And I think he showed that season that as a manager he could stand alone, because he brought in Davy Provan and Murdo McLeod, two fantastic signings at that time. But even if you look at the game against Rangers, the 4-2 game, he's got Roy Aitken scoring, he's got George McCluskey scoring. So in the greatest traditions of Celtic, the youth are coming through and playing and scoring and being successful for Celtic. Can I ask you your memories of that night when 10 men won the league?
Yeah, I was sitting watching it, and I was overcome it all. I can always remember sitting in the house, and obviously we knew John Doyle too. I was a big fan. He went to school with at Ladies High. Then he gets sent off. My dad's like that. Always said, he was always mouthy and getting into trouble when he's at United. But what a fantastic winger he was. And then when John gets sent off, he says, that's it. But how they turned it round. Brilliant it was.
So did you know Johnny?
Yeah.
Another guy who was Celtic mad?
Oh, yeah. I went to Ladies High. He came from Birkinshaw, right just beside Jimmy Johnson down, but he went to Ladies and knew John well then.
Aye, used to turn up for training with the Celtic scarf on.
Yeah, 2 years of working at school. 2 years above me at ladies. Yeah.
Brilliant. What about yourself, Frank? What's your memories of that night?
See the thing about football, I remember years ago, a boy from Bilsall saying to me, we're at the football, and he went like, this is, I'm talking about, it would be the late 70s, but it wasn't that game. I'll come to that game in a minute. The 10 men won the League One. And I remember a guy going like that to me, Frank, it's funny the way it works out actually, because I've ended up doing things to do with Celtic and that, but he's like, he said, Frank, you spend more time watching the crowd than watching the game. And I didn't get it at the time. I must have been a budding sociologist when I was 15 and 16 and 17. But I did. I was right into the Celtic culture more than probably I was into the football. I don't know, just maybe because I was shite at football myself, I don't know. But Celtic was ingrained into me, you know, in every way, and just. But and I think a lot of it's to do with the culture you grow up in, and man, he's fucking what they done was talking about Celtic. Marty Cathy gave me my first scarf, one of the old scarves with the wee shamrocks on it, the wee kind of cloth ones. But the night 10 men won the league, I remember that game, going to the game. Now we would normally get the Bellsall bus, Bellsall and District Celtic supporters bus, which then picked up at Moss End Chapel, then went down to Crinesies, then up to Cooks, and it would shoot into Celtic Park. But I remember that game going, and ironically enough, there was 3 years that used to go in the train in the morning to work. I worked in a clothing company in Howard Street, Plum's Clothing Company. Mick Hughes, who's now the head of religious education at St Margaret Mary's in Castlemoult. Yeah. Mick Hughes and Johnny Maguire, who was became the Celtic Pools guy, still there now. So the 3 of us would travel into work in the morning. Now I don't know what happened with Johnny that night, but I ended up going to the game with Mick Hughes and a big crowd for Bellsall. We get a training or something. I actually can't remember getting into. I might have been fucking blitzed right enough, but I can't actually remember getting into Celtic Park. But I remember after the game, we were in the Celtic end. We've obviously gone bonkers. Do you know what I mean? It was just brilliant. But we left the Celtic end and we walked back into the city centre down the Gallagher. It was brilliant. So it was just great. Just like a big massive party, a huge party. And I remember that night, Parkhead was the full. I think there was 48,000 at that game, the 10 in a row game, when the Parkhead had to lock me in that. But I don't know, but it was a bad night as well. It was raining quite heavy. Yeah, we walked into 2 minutes tunes. I suppose it would have been the Merchant City, but it wasn't the Merchant City in any, you know what I mean? I hadn't really been done up or anything like that. We probably went into a pub in the Gallagher and we get home from there, but that was a great night. But some of the nights I was at Celtic, I stopped drinking 10 years ago, by the way. Some of the carry on me getting involved in after Celtic games is just insanity. Some of the things that went on, you know. I remember, I said this, that we were on another podcast with Andrew Milne up at Malone's. I don't repeat this story.
Go for it, of course, aye.
Again, me and a boy stayed now, Ziggy McGuigan, Michael Joseph McGuigan from Bellsall. God rest his soul, he's dead now, but me and him, there's a couple of things I can say, but I won't say, but there's one that could probably get away with alright. There was the Celtic v Dundee United, it was the centenary of the year. Was it centenary of the year? 2 years in a row we played them, the red card final.
Aye, centenary.
Centenary year,
yeah. Give Maggie the red card.
Aye, well, give her the red card. So she's at the game and all. So we're, at the time, we've totally rebelled up to the eyeballs. We've got all the rebel stuff going on. We've got anti-Tory stuff going on. So it means you get put out. I think we get put out. We get through it. The Celtic end. So we sneak back in again into the Celtic end. Back in again. Gets through again with the busy. Because it was crazy then at the poll. You can get in it. No, I'm sorry, but I can't get back in again. The polls won't let you back in. So we get back in this time. We're like, fully drink. That's that. We'll get that Thatcher. Fucking Thatcher. So we ends up getting buys a big tricolour outside the ground. Sneaks into the enclosure, right under Thatcher, standing with this big tricolour, shouting Tories out and all that. Lift it again. So one of my claims to fame was it's 3 times I got lifted at one cup final this centenary year and never get jailed.
It's all for the good cause, though.
All for the good cause.
All for the good cause.
I mean, you young boys followed out. We actually thought we were taking a stand in 3 of the 6 counties and all the other stuff. Just because Thatcher it was right during the miners, but it was just after the miners' strike, wasn't it? 19. That was it.
That was 84, 85.
84.
But see when you look at that, and the Celtic team obviously had to go up and get the trophy, and there's Maggie. They arranged for the team to meet her before the game, and a couple of Celtic players refused to shake her hand.
Aye, I mean, I've heard that as well.
Mick McCarthy being one of them, because he was for Barnsley, wasn't he? So fair play to anybody that refused to shake her hand, as far as I'm concerned.
Listen, it's all. I remember going to that thing. I couldn't actually suss out why she was there, and but she was there, and it was. Maybe I saw you waving up. I'm not saying I helped you or anything. I don't want to incriminate myself after all these years. But no, but when you look at it, he sees her. You've got to remember that as well, because I'm just thinking as well that I'm sure when he was with Aberdeen, he was a runner-up that year before he came to Celtic as the manager. And then he came on to Celtic, and then again he just done it. And I thought he'd done an excellent job. What I was quite sad was the photograph that was shown in the paper with him and Mr. Steen shaking hands.
Horrible.
And passing.
Horrendous photo.
You know,
horrendous.
I've still got that in my brain, and it was sad and how they captured it.
Yeah.
How Mr. Steen would have felt, and how Caesar would have felt. I think we could have handled things a lot better, Paul. Back in the day. And I don't know if you know the photograph I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's one in the boardroom, and you can see Stevens standing back.
Terrible photo.
It's horrible.
It's a horrible photo. That's my only down part. That whole transitional period is that photograph. But he goes on and he wins. He won the league championship 4 times, didn't he? He won the Scottish Cup 3 times, the Scottish League Cup once, and so on. So there's an important part of our history. And maybe if Billy he would have got the backing as well that he deserved, he could have done other great things as well. And it's when you look at it, you say, what was the Celtic board and the Celtic so-called hierarchy thinking at these times? We should have looked after Mr. Steen a lot better. We should have looked after Billy and so on a lot better. We should be looking after the Lisbon Lions a lot better than maybe what we are. Maybe than what we are. But not to discredit anybody. But what one of the biggest ambassadors to the Lisbon Lions is Willie Hockey, and I genuinely believe his love for the Lisbon Lions and the history of the Lisbon Lions, the belief that the Lisbon Lions with Billy heading it is so special, and it's men like him who have actually helped keep the Lisbon Lions going. Right back from the 25th anniversary, which he was he's involved in, and various things that people don't see that he's been involved in to keep these lines all together and keep them all going. So if there was a supporter out with the Lisbon Lions, it's Willie Hockey, who has kept them together with different games, different functions, right up to helping with the 50th anniversary and whatever. So credit to these guys, and there's probably other guys that we don't know who's been involved in that. So Billy McNeill, he's a successful player with us. He's a successful manager with us. He's got his statue at Celtic Park. But how great is it what you guys have done to raise what you've raised today, which you can tell us about, for his statue to be in Bells Hill. Brilliant.
It goes back, Jim, to what you said about having a statue to commemorate the legacy of every single Lisbon Lion in their birthplace or where they came from, you know. I think that would be so important. Touching on what you said, Jim, people say, oh, but it all changed when Fergus came in, they had a meal and he got them all in, and Celtic have been good to the Lions ever since. I think when you look at ex-players, and this is a point I've made before, we've just gone through a pandemic that nobody saw coming, where the vulnerable in our societies were really at risk. And I wonder, was there a liaison officer at Celtic who phoned up the ex-players who might have been in the vulnerable category or their widows to make sure they were okay? I know the answer to that.
No.
That's wrong, and that's something that the club should have been bang on from day one of the pandemic. All right, and that's something I feel quite strongly about, because you would talk about former players. Without the former players, where's the success?
Where is the club? If you know, you talk about a Celtic family and all that. That is the kind of maybe the ideal type scenario. But see what you were saying about way back the time of Big Billy shaking Big Steens. It was a heartbreaking. I always remember it. I was a wee boy and I remember going like that. That's there's something. No, that's horrible. That.
Yeah.
You knew it was stuff that wasn't right. But you look at Celtic as well up then. Celtic, in terms of PR and marketing, they were fucking rotten. You know, I remember going up to, as an example, when Desmond White had the offices up in West Nell Street.
That's right. You're right.
I remember getting up there to buy tickets.
That's right.
Get the tickets off him. I mean,
I've done it myself.
This guy's ahead of Celtic. Is the way we'd have seen it. And 6 and whatever it was at the time, just get 2 tickets off him. Mm-hmm. It was a queue waiting up the street, started dishing the tickets out.
Into the money box.
You know, that's what it was like. It was like, so you say, and again, when I was saying earlier on about meet cousins over Ireland, we went to Celtic Park, chap the door, the main front, can we get an neighbour going in? And you think to yourself, God, such an institution that means so much to so many people was run so badly. And they get away with it, I think, because they play, see that, but we're just looking after the club. We're custodians and all that. They get away with that for decades.
Touching on that, my brother-in-law was at Celtic. He was part of the Quality Street gang. Unfortunately for him, he was Jimmy's understudy, Jinky's understudy. His name was John Taggart. And John went to Chelsea straight from school at Coatbridge. Tommy Docherty signed him. He was homesick. The doc told him, he says, the only way we've got to let you go is you go back to Scotland. So Mr. Steen signed him. He brought him up. He was with Lou McCarry, George Conley, David Hay, the Quality Street gang. Some of the things that John used to tell me, that the lack of things actually for players at that time, especially the reserve players, I just didn't believe him. But obviously he was telling me the truth. Later on in life you find out what it exactly was like behind the scenes at that time.
Yep.
They weren't looked after at all.
No, it's wrong. I remember, it might have been John telling me the story, but someone was getting treatment in the treatment room, and obviously the guy giving him that treatment would be Bob Rooney.
Bob Rooney.
The physiotherapist, in inverted commas, because I didn't think he was a qualified physio. And he came in with a heat lamp. That's what I was talking about earlier. But he had a cigarette hanging out the side of his mouth, and whatever leg he was working on, the fag ash was dropping on the other one, you know. That was Celtic, but European champions.
I see what you're saying about Celtic in this sort of vein we're talking about. You read any Celtic history books, right back to the start, and you're like, they've done it. I mean, look at McGrory trying to sell, Mealy trying to sell McGrory and all that way back then. All the things to get money underhand. I didn't even tell Jimmy McGrory were trying to sell them.
Yeah.
All these kind of things were all petty and disrespectful to the players, and just no imagination, no big ideas, I don't think.
No, but you look at it what Paul's saying there with the heat lamp and that coming in. So, if you look at it, Jimmy was probably the most kicked player at that particular time in British football. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Right? Billy with the tackles at the back as well. Actually, them all the different tackles, because we all know back in the day it was a more hardier game, and the wee man, as we say, get the most kickings. But the resilience of the body, they were back playing the following week. It's not like today. I'm out for a year. I'm out here. I'm out there.
It's all to do with their upbringing.
It's up to date, correct. It's all to date. We obviously your junior football background there as well, Eddie. But maybe there was something in that wee lamp. Maybe there was just something in that wee lamp.
I'm slagging Bob Rooney off here. Maybe he was right.
And this is what I'm coming. I think Bob Rooney came in and went, here's a lamp, guys.
Right.
The best one, Jim, was Jim Craig, who knew a bit or two because he was obviously studying dentistry.
Yes.
And they were all on a long line in the changing room to get an injection. And he turns around to Andy Lynch and goes, have you seen the doc changing that needle yet?
Is that right?
Aye.
What?
Aye. But when Jim brought it up, they were like, who do you think you are?
Of course, aye.
But they changed the needle. But that's the kind of things that went on. But as you were saying before, we need to remember people like James McGrory. And it's great that St Roch's have got James McGrory Park.
Aye.
Because up at Celtic Park, he might appear on that, the Legends fascia, but James McGrory, there's nothing up there.
I know.
You think about the Lennox Town, it's just called Lennox Town. Why not name it after somebody? I think Tommy Bonzi's name's been mentioned a few times.
Sure, yeah.
So fans like the Bobby Lennox guys at Saltcoats and your own group have come together and to build a lasting legacy of our greatest players. Tell us, how did that idea come to fruition?
Right, well, myself, while I was involved with Bellshill Athletic, I used to go to council meetings, North Lanarkshire Council, and it was called the Local Area Partnership. So I went to it one night and I told them, I'm not here as a representative of Bellshill, I'm here as a Bellshill man. I want to know why North Lanarkshire have done nothing to commemorate a guy from Bellshill who put Bellshill on the map. First captain, North, as Frank says, Northern Europe to lift the European Cup. Jimmy Johnson had a statue named after him. Davy Cooper's got one. Matt Busby's got the swimming pool made after him. What has Billy got in Bellshill? And one of the councillors, but he's got a wee bit up in the Ravenscraig Hall of Fame. I says, come on, let's be honest here. All it is photographs up my wall. So I told them, a statue. So they sent somebody to meet me, and we were in a couple of meetings, just me and him. At that time, obviously, I was quite in the dark. Billy was struggling through his illness. And it was sort of something just put the dampers on it. And then after Billy passed away as usual, I got a phone call from MSP. Come and see me tomorrow. To see him, he goes, look, North Lanarkshire Council have been in touch. They've gave you £15,000 towards the statue campaign for Billy McNeill. You'll have to call a public meeting, which I did. And the rest, as I say, is history. It's gone from strength to strength with the committee I've got, which couldn't be better. And that's how it all started. It just went from strength to strength. It's been amazing. It's community driven right from the start. We wanted to do it all ourselves. We gave ourselves 2 years. The date was always hopefully 25th of May 2021 to coincide with the European Cup, not for 10 in a row. And we gave ourselves a target of £70,000. We got on board John McKenna, who done Billy's statue, and Jinky's and Bobby Lennox's. We had meetings with him. He got to Bellshill. We went down to Turnberry. We actually paid him a fee of £4,500 to get his services. We had a couple of fundraisings, and as I say, now we're sitting at £72,500, a year ahead of schedule. We've had Liz McNeill contact me. I invited her to come out to one of our fundraisers, and she phoned me up and said, Eddie, maybe 4 years. I said, that's great, we'll look after you. The night before it, she phoned me back, Eddie, I don't know if it's a problem, but there's 13 years coming. No problem. So we met her. They thoroughly enjoyed it. They get their photos taken with everybody. They're always following their pages. And she's in regular contact, and I also keep in regular contact with her. Our plan now, obviously, once the statue's up, it's actually in process now of the process of getting charity status like yourselves here at the Jimmy Johnson. This may take a wee while, but Liz has kindly agreed, once we get our charity status, that she will become the patron of the Billy McNeill Foundation. Whereas we're going to be helping kids, private kids in the local area, not just in football, any other sports. And we'll not just obviously be limited to Catholic schools, it'll be other kids in the area. And we want the legacy of Billy McNeill to be going on and on for hundreds of years to come in Bellshill. So we're getting there good and proper.
I think that's fantastic. And I'm going to come over to yourself for a moment, Jim, because talking about a Billy McNeill Foundation, you know, doing good work in the name of Billy McNeill, it's exactly what you're doing here in the name of Jimmy Johnson. Tell us a wee bit about what you have done since attaining charitable status yourself.
Well, what we've done since getting that. First of all, Paul, can I just say something that I think that's a magnificent story, that you've managed to get all that funding for the statue for Billy in that period of time, and well done to everybody who's actually helped you get there. Your committee.
There's 9 years in the committee.
Well, there you go.
You know.
9 years in the committee. The people who have donated from far and wide, as you were saying, throughout the world, not just Scotland, but throughout the world, is fantastic, Paul. And I'm so delighted for you. So delighted. So here at Jimmy Johnson Charitable Trust, we first came across yourself, Frank. You come across. You were looking to get X amount of a kit to send over to
Gambia.
Over to the Gambia. So we done that. We helped give you X amount, as we say, kit and whatever. But we kept that under the radar. We never really publicised that, did we?
Well, we put it on my Facebook.
You put it on your Facebook, but we went, there you go. There's something we can help. We've helped kids in Cambodia. The guys are going to finalise a video for you for that, Paul. So we've done that. We've helped kids feed kids in the summer programme, which was a joint partnership with UEFA. We felt very, very privileged to be asked to do that ahead of many people, which was part of the pilot scheme with the Scottish Football Partnership and UEFA. We've helped other kids in the community through other means as well, given donations. We've helped the dementia groups that come here as well, with football memories who we've also had in. We'll be able to help that. We have also been involved more recently with BEMIS, which is part of the Freedom from Torture programme, where people have come from various countries. It's under let's say, the regimes in these countries, whether it be African countries or Middle East countries or whatever, who come to the UK as refugees or as asylum seekers or whatever the correct terminology is, guys, to use. Mm-hmm. So again, we were very honoured when Andy Gilchrist, who contacted us from the SFA, and Andy's is a good guy to work with, and he contacted us and he says, Jim, the programme that you done with UEFA and managing to bring together 14 nationalities, around about 12 or 14 nationalities together, and feed them and have them all playing together under the name of Jimmy Johnston, is actually making the rounds within UEFA. And we've been asked if you would get involved with this programme called Freedom from Torture, and we said yes, that sounds really, really good. So we got involved in that last year, which came into this year, and it was starting again around about the end of February, March. But unfortunately, because of the lockdown, it's not progressed, but that will progress. And that's been a fantastic thing that's been done under Jimmy's name, under his charitable trust, that it's helped these different peoples. And I don't know if you've seen the video, guys, that the SFA made, but it's very touching from here, playing outside and having a togetherness from all these different nationalities, again, under the name of Jinky, I think's fantastic.
Brilliant.
And the police actually seen it as well. The the commanding officer, was his right official name, the top guy or whatever.
Chief Constable.
The Chief Constable seen it, and he seen the film, and he got in touch with the SFA, and they said that this is something that they would like to get involved as well. So they've sponsored it. They've actually sponsored it through the police charity foundation. Again, excuse me, I can't remember the exact name for the police charity. So we've now got UEFA involved, you've got the SFA involved, you've got Scottish Football Partnership involved, you've got the local community involved here. So it actually goes on and on, Paul, and there's probably some things in my head off the cuff that I can't remember what we do. But what it's done here, the Jimmy Johnson charity, and ironically, in Ward 7 of Glasgow, you couldn't write that, could you? That his charity's based, and it's grown by helping people, helping young people, helping older people. Were involved in with Joycey as well, the mental health side of things. And Kenny goes actually and takes a football memorabilia and actually helps at dementia area at Ibrox as well. Again, showing we're compassion as people and involving all people from all walks of life and bringing Jimmy Johnson into life. And it's amazing that when you see these people, unfortunately, that's suffering from dementia, as Caesar did in the latter stages of his life, that they come walking through these doors and they see this era that you mentioned, Frank, the golden era, and they come alive. And it's honestly, it's so special. They'll go, there's Willie Henderson, who's a great patron, who's a great guy.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
love him to death.
Yep.
Fantastic man. There's Willie Henderson. There's Jinky. There's the Lisbon Lions. Here's other guys. So that wee part there for our charity has been great for the name of Jimmy Johnson and the people of the world. The people of the world that we've actually helped, not just in Glasgow or the UK, but the world.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. I said this as I came in here earlier, but how Celtic supporters, how could you be anything other than inclusive, given our cultural, social, political, religious background? You've got to be outgoing, totally outgoing, and that's why I think that McNeill's mother Irish descent, father Lithuanian descent, but see since that happened, since Irish, Italians, Lithuanians came here, then you've also had Bangladeshis, you've had Pakistanis, you've had Turkish people, you've had people from a number of different Caribbean countries, you've got Polish people. The McNeill statue to me should be a shining beacon to people as well, that immigrants can come to this country and they can do well. It's got to be it's got to be inclusive. I mean, we're obviously between now and next year. We'll be getting some sorted in the next couple of months, hopefully, in terms of contacting the 2 local high schools, Bellsill Academy, Cardinal Newman High School. We've got 6 feeder primary schools. So you want to make sure you've got the Bellsill Beltmoss End dimension there sorted. We'll get that done, no bother. I'm a careers advisor, that's what I do in my day job. So we'll get that sorted, no bother. But you want to, a community organisation, by definition, should be orientated towards the community and to help the community. Now, that's why I keep saying it's a great sport. I'm dead against people minimising or using words that minimise what we're doing here, and that's why I hate it. And I always try and say when I'm doing anything on Facebook about the Billy McNeill Commemoration Committee, it's not, Penny's the first British captain to have the European Cup. You're like, what the fuck are you saying that for? It's true. He's also the first Scottish captain, but he's more than that. And you need to, in order to fully understand and represent what Celtic's done and what Celtic done in 1967, that you need to use words that emphasise the comprehensiveness of it and how important this was. Because, you I mean, again, we're back to where we started a wee bit, but what they done in 1967 is unbelievable. You could sit and go, some teams I sit and go like that. I'm a historian. Some teams I sit and go like that. Think about what they've done and what the effect that had in people. I mean, again, I wouldn't overemphasise it, but I would say that at that stage, a lot of things with Scottish society in some respects was changing then, you know, and I've no doubt that Celtic winning the European Cup fed into people's confidence and all that as well in many ways, and that's maybe part of the way you've got when you look at the labour market. I mean, that's what I do. I'm looking at all that stuff and I'm like, these guys won the European Cup, but they couldn't. There's so many different sections of Scottish society they would have struggled to find employment in. I mean, it's mental. And one of the ironic things as well, and I've said this for years and years and years, that in this kind of area, I look at that ethno-religious history, politics and all that, but you could look at some of that and go like that now. See the guys that accurately describes the Scotland of 1967, he was described as a bigot. Don't bring up these things. That's what you get all the, don't talk about it because it's too awkward for us to discuss, because we don't know enough about it, or what we do know about it is a trope that's not really true. So people know, it's like, in order to fully comprehend and understand what happened in 1967, you need to be conscious of how it happened and the context of the society that it happened in, you know, and what they done. You sit and go, I mean, you've got to remember, they won that European Cup, they kept around Park Keegan and El Lorry, and coal lorry, a coal lorry.
But Frank, you're right. But see that year in 1967 and the importance of it. Now you've got to remember as well that regardless of being a Scottish club, there was the majority of this country supported the Italian team. They would have rather seen the Italian team win than the Celtic team win.
Yep.
And my father installed that in me. My mother installed. People would have rather have seen the team that
Italians, the population would
wanted to see them winning than Celtic won. So again, maybe we have come right round in a circle, but that's no problem.
No,
because the circle will never be broken.
No,
because we come right round all the time.
Aye.
We come right round to a time in history in '67 and going forward. It did bring those times, and the people connected with Celtic came out and goes, you know what, we're up here now. Now we can all go to there. We don't all need to stay and be where we are. We can build ourselves up now. We can become more educated. We can become
1,000,000%.
We can build our own companies up.
That's what happened.
We can build our own companies up.
Yes.
We can work for ourselves and we can generate our own income. We can generate better lives for our families. That's what 1967 brought.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
My supervisor, Joe Bradley and John Kelly, two Celtic men, obviously, one at Edinburgh, one at Stirling. They've wrote about this.
Joe Bradley, aye.
They've wrote about this and said, there's no doubt that, no, you look at that, look what that must have meant. Fucking people that were no much better than second-class citizens, even as late as that. And yet they produced this team. 7 of the players were boys' guild players. So that's quite incredible. Think about that in itself. How socially, culturally and religiously significant that could be. 7 of them are moulded by the culture that no, for good or ill.
But but you're right. In guild football, I played guild football with St Philomena's. I loved that school. I actually love St Philomena's.
Where was that, Jim?
So much. Black Hill.
Oh, Black Hill, yeah.
Aye, St Philomena's. Well, it was for the Black Hill people. It was actually up in a Proven Mall, just across from the Royston Avenue, where the number 6 bus used to park. And a great teacher called Miss Divers. You take me down a different road, bringing back memories. It was brilliant, Paul. It was a great. But we'll go into that another time. Maybe the guest will go up later on. Stevie, but he's an All Saints boy. Anyway, but the guild teams. Is that what we're talking about there?
The guild
teams were brilliant.
Fantastic.
And they always everybody played. So, and the Guild teams back then as well, you had all these different players, but what would it have been like in the early 60s, late 50s, the 60s, and they're bringing these players through, as you're saying.
Aye.
Obviously, Jimmy was one of the Guild players.
St Columbus.
St Columbus. You know, it would be great to get some of the old guys back there for there in as well, Paul, for the Columba. God willing, it's still a few of them still ways here today. I think that would be great. But we have come round in a circle with 67, and it's passionate. There's so much passion coming for you two guys talking about what you've achieved, and for the Billy McNeill statue. I can't wait, Paul, to see it and to be part, just not to be part of a committee or to be part of that, just to be part of a Celtic guy that goes along that day and the unveiling the statue, and what a magnificent day that will be.
Can I just say something today as well?
Sure.
I mean, like God rest my dad's soul. My dad died, I think it was 2006. My dad would never, and there's plenty of other dads dead or not, who would never, ever have thought that there been a statue of Billy McNeill at Belsill Cross. There's two people in this room that probably wouldn't expect it either.
I mean, we can fill Paul in a wee bit with Belsill and whatever, but I am absolutely astounded and amazed that you have got that right there at Belsill Cross. I mean, what an achievement.
On a lighter note on that, Jim.
Brilliant.
While you're saying that, a few weeks ago, we had 6 boys for one of the Belsill supporters clubs, the Belsill Brigada, who asked us if they could do a cycle run for us with the ambition to raise £600 to go towards the fund. So, great, yep. Contacted Tommy Boyd, who we went and picked him up 7 o'clock in the morning to come over to Belsill to see the guys off. They guys actually raised £3,500 for us that day.
Super.
And Tommy was taken aback with it all. We took him up to the site after the boys had left. We took Tommy up in the car to the site where the statue's going to be, and he's looking around about, and there's a Rangers pub just up for you, right?
I know.
And he says to me, "Is that no the pub Beaton was in?" Aye. Oh, he says, "Brilliant, boys."
But do you know something? I was sitting with Jimmy this day, and there he was. He came in, and I just looked at him. That's Caesar. Well, how you doing? And it was the first time I'd met him. Actually, the first time I'd met him, and I was in awe. But I had been on about Jimmy and Bertie and the great Joe McBride, the great Willie O'Neill and such. But see, when Caesar walked in that room, I mean, I'm visualising it right now. He was, to me, he was just...
It's his persona.
The persona that came out of him, Paul, was magnificent. And you could see them all looking at him. Caesar, every one of them. Caesar.
Still their captain, wasn't he?
Caesar, every one of them.
Brilliant.
Caesar, even Jim Kelly, Caesar.
Aye, brilliant.
He came in, and he had such a command, and it was great. So we started talking about different things, and a wee topic come up about the Rangers and that, and I said something about it. He says, "Listen," he actually called me James. "Listen, James, great Rangers supporters out there. Great Rangers supporters. It's great that there's people support the Rangers. It's great that people support the Celtic. Everybody's entitled to whoever they want to support." Yeah, definitely. And that was so magic. And I think a lot of the Rangers supporters actually love Big Billy as well for what he done, for what he achieved in football. So maybe it's fitting that the Rangers pub's there and Caesar's there.
And there's a CCTV camera.
Absolutely fantastic, Paul.
The only thing about them, their supporters bus actually leaves for the nursery just by where the statue's going to be. I think they'll change their venue for leaving for the Crown.
It's a good laugh for that, but really, and it's not been an issue whatsoever. There's no been an issue. I mean, formally, it's not been everything's cool, and it's the way it should be, because if it was, if it was a Motherwell player who had done exceptionally well, or a Brecon player, or a Rangers player, it wouldn't. I'd put that. Charge on. Fair play to you.
You're right, fair play. But see, when we see every new team, then when we go out to play out at Hamilton Palace, Paul, I take them by Davy statue, Davy Cooper.
Yeah.
Right, guys, in front of that, legend, photograph.
Absolutely.
And why would I know?
Brilliant.
Why would we know?
Without a doubt.
Yeah, the man was a legend.
Great player, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic player.
Yeah.
So, it's important.
I was going to ask you about, I've seen some of the work of the sculpture, obviously the Bobby Lennox one being the latest one, going to the unveiling of that. Stunning piece of work. Have you revealed the look of the statue yet? Is that still under wraps?
Well,
I know I took it back, didn't I? I took it back. I put a post up on Facebook there.
a lot of people are asking us to get the iconic one with the cup, but obviously we can't because they copyright things up. So what we went for, again, we felt as a committee we had to involve the people that attended all the public meetings.
Yeah.
So we showed them a couple of photos, and the iconic one at the picture, they want Billy coming up the steps at Lisbon, holding the pen in his hand. That's what's
picture
going
that.
to be.
Wow, I can
That's
picture
what's
that.
going to be.
Yeah.
And we left that up to the people attending the meetings all the time. Whatever they wanted, the committee would go with, and that's what they took.
What I'm going to be interested in is to see what football boots the sculpture puts on him, because he was wearing Puma, but Neely Mockin had painted 3 Adidas stripes on, so he got his £30 bonus.
Really?
Aye. Paul, that.
Oh, for God's sake.
Paul, see, because you've asked that question,
brilliant.
I'm not going to ask you what you had for your breakfast this morning. I think that is absolutely genius, son. That is genius.
Aye.
But that's he is right. He's right. The boots were painted. So
Is that right? I've never heard that story.
The bold Neely.
John McKenna,
I see stories I've not heard of it. Tell me where.
Adidas, as a manufacturer at that time, didn't make football kits, they made boots. And Umbro were the distributor all over Britain. So there was a deal done that all the players had to wear Adidas. But Jock Stein wasn't happy with that, because, guys like John Clark had worn the same boots for X amount of years and they were comfy. It's like an old pair of slippers. He says, you're not wearing brand new boots. So a few of them wore Puma. Jim Craig was one of them, Billy McNeill, and Neely Mockin the night before with the old paint, the white paint for the stripes.
it's a true story, eh?
There's a couple of great pictures where you can actually see the Puma. You can see the Puma.
So maybe it's a wee attention to detail on that part,
course,
guys.
that
The wee bits of paint on the boot. Paul, you're a genius.
Anorak.
Aye, absolutely brilliant.
Is John McKenna aware of that?
Well, I don't know. I could send him a few close-ups.
I'll be talking to him anyway.
A few close-ups.
As I say to Jim, I was taken aback. Obviously, I've had a lot of involvement in the last 6 years with junior football and visiting a lot of different grounds all over Scotland. And being honest with you, there's very few, albeit this, and I'm talking about some of the ones in the Junior Premier League. Some of the grounds you go to, you don't get a cup of tea, you're in and out, a dressing room cramped, but the facilities here for the kids are fantastic. I just like to put that on record. It's really, really good.
Appreciated.
Fair play to all the guys that put in a lot of time to make sure of the facilities.
I was just wanting to fire in, guys. Just as I say, I've been in here once before. I'm involved in a charity. I've just got a wee thing here, right? Project. It's all Celtic supporters involved in it, by the way. Absolutely. Project Gambia, People Feeding People. It's a charity we set up 10 years ago, working with deaf kids in St John's School for the Deaf in the Gambia. We worked with them for about maybe 7 years there. We still work with them, make sure the kids get fed every day at school. We also supply the kids with football gear and all that. Excuse me. We've also took on the other 2 schools, St Patrick's Primary and St Joseph's Primary as well. So we're feeding maybe over in excess of 1,000 kids every day. But we've also tried to help the Fitbit. I can't tell you how big Fitbit strips are in the gap. I mean, it's everybody. And it's no exaggeration. You go, that can't be everybody, Frank and Well, it's not everybody, but almost every kid's there's Fitbit taps in one description like that. We get a really fantastic donation for your good self. So we really, really appreciate for Jimmy Johnson Academy. I think it was maybe about a year ago.
That's right, aye.
A year ago, it was outstanding. They all just were delivered. They were shipped over to the Gambia, a lorry load, shipped over to the Gambia, and they got them. I think they just, when the lockdown started, they arrived in Gambia. We also get great help. One time we get stuff off the Celtic Charity Fund as well. So we kitted out about 13 teams. We got all the teams in the Gambia that wanted Celtic taps to meet us on the beach. It was absolutely amazing. This
Brilliant.
November. So we've got video and all that. We videoed all the kids. I can't remember what they were singing. They were all singing Celtic songs and that at the beach. And about 11, I think there were about 13 teams, but 11 of the teams changed their name. There were teams like Kaloli United, they're on to Kaloli Celtic.
Brilliant.
Sure as God, Sarah Kunda Shamrock used to be Sarah Kunda Boys Club or something. It's doing the Sarah Kunda Shamrock Celtic Boys Club. Stuff like that. So it's great. What I'm trying to say is it's amazing, the stuff. I mean, you become very conscious of how we waste stuff as well, but you go to the Gambia and nothing gets wasted. All these strips we got off use will all get used. They'll all get altered. They'll get women that will alter them. They'll be sexist, by the way, but that's what will happen. They'll alter the strips and make sure that kids get the wear out of them, you know.
That's fantastic.
So thanks very much for all the help we got from Project Gambia to yourself.
Paul, just before we finish, can I just put on record our appreciation as a committee to yourselves for inviting us in here? And one last thing, as a committee, we would like to thank Frank Hanaway for the Celtic Grave Society, who kindly donated to us a Celtic Opus, which we actually just drew live on Facebook last Friday night after selling tickets for a period of 6 weeks, which pulled us in £2,800.
Magic. What a lovely donation, because that's an amazing bit of Celtic memorabilia.
Yeah.
So, what did you raise on that?
£2,800.
£2,800.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's actually fantastic. Mm-hmm. So, what the Jimmy Johnson Charitable Trust will do, we'll donate £700 to you guys.
Thank you very much indeed.
So we'll do that, Paul.
Superb.
We'll donate £700.
Brilliant.
You happy with that,
man?
This
superb.
You were thanking us for inviting you on. We need to thank you for being here. It's been a fantastic hour and a half discussion.
It's been
very
brilliant.
Enjoyable. Great to talk about the Celtic greats who have made, for me, the club what it is today. You know, they were trailblazers in European football, and it's only because of that we expect success in European football, because of these guys, your Jimmy Johnsons and your Billy McNeills. But Jim and I would like to extend our thanks for you to come down here and speak about your endeavours, and all that's left for us to say is thank you very much for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Caesar is king.